Hello. Thank you all for hopping on. My name is Carol Evans, and I have Ashley Evans with me. Ashley is my sister-in-law, and we married brothers.
Yeah.
So, lucky us. Anyway, I wanted Ashley to come on tonight and share with you part of her testimony because she has a really unique story of when their oldest son, Bentley, was born. And I know many of you have a similar story, or maybe you're kind of walking that path right now. And so I wanted Ashley to kind of come on and share her story of some really unique ways that God answered their prayer, that he met them where they were in that moment in a really unique way. So, Ashley, tell me when you first started to realize that the pregnancy was just different and some things were maybe a little bit off.
Yeah, so around 26 weeks, I started presenting with just some weird symptoms, just didn't seem like anything serious. But I went into the doctor anyway, and up until that point, everything had been fine. And so I went into my OB, and, she's like, everything looks fine, seems fine, just take it easy, and we'll go from there. We were leaving on vacation to visit my family in Minnesota at the time. She gave us the okay to travel, and we're like, all right. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
It was Christmas, wasn't it? Or
it
around
was
Christmas?
Yeah, it was Christmas. Yep, it was Christmas. We were going to see them for the holiday.
You guys drove.
We did.
Yeah.
Yep. 16-hour trip. And
It's a long trip.
yeah, so we drove to Minnesota. We had been there for a few days, and I started bleeding pretty heavily. So my husband, Ben, took me to the hospital. And the hospital where I was at, where he took me at that time, didn't have like the care that I needed. And they didn't have a NICU if that was needed. So they took me by ambulance to a different hospital about 45 minutes away. And then I was hospitalized there for 4 days, with bleeding off and on. And after 4 days, I went into labor. So at 29,
Wow.
yeah, it was 29 and 4, something.
Wow.
Like that. Yeah.
And this was obviously your first pregnancy, first baby.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of first.
It was a lot
of first. And you were not with your regular OB.
Mm-mm.
So, and were you near your family where you gave birth?
I was, yes. I was
Okay.
about like 45 minutes,
Okay.
hour away. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when Bentley was born, what was his condition when he was born? Like how was, tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, yep. So he was born at like 29 and a half weeks. For his gestational age, he weighed like 3 pounds, 11 ounces or something. And so that's a little on the bigger side for his gestational age. He was breathing on his own from birth. He was able to maintain his body heat fairly well for being a preemie.
Yeah.
But yeah, like right away, he just did so well. From 29 weeks, he could like track us,
Wow.
and it was one of those things where we were just so thankful that despite being born early,
Yeah.
he was healthy. He was just really healthy.
Right.
And, yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about some of the families that you guys got to meet and kind of minister to while you were there.
Yeah. So the NICU that we were in had room-in facilities where like a parent could stay in the NICU room, with the babies. And so inevitably, we just got to be really close with the other parents that stayed there.
Yeah.
There was one family in particular, a single mother in particular. Her baby was in the room next to Bentley's. Her daughter was born at 24 weeks.
Whoa.
24 weeks. And there were several times where, the doctors are like, you need to say goodbye.
Wow.
She's not going to make it. And now she's still alive. She's 9 years old. She's absolutely beautiful and healthy, and yep. And
you guys still keep in contact with her?
We do. We still keep in contact with her. Yep. And then there was another single mother on the other side of Bentley, and her baby was born at 28 weeks, and I'm afraid he didn't make it. We still keep in contact with that family though, and
Yeah.
You know, and we've been able to share the gospel with them several times, and you know, just maintaining friendships and you know, relationships. It's crazy that almost 10 years later, you know, we're still
that's
friends
awesome.
and in contact with them.
That's awesome. So the hospital that you actually had Bentley at, wasn't that like one of the top rated like hospitals like for NICUs like in Minnesota? Like wasn't that a really good hospital for that?
Yes, it was a very good hospital, and they had just renovated their NICU.
Oh wow.
So,
That's nice.
It was great. And
That's awesome. So tell me about some time specifically where, do you remember anything specific that either you guys were praying for or milestones that Bentley needed to hit that you felt like looking back on that, and maybe in the moment it didn't really feel like it, but looking back on it, you can feel where God just answered those milestone prayers to get Bentley to where he is now? Because looking at him now,
you never know.
You would never know. And
Yeah.
he was just so tiny. He was itty bitty tiny. And so, because some of those prayers and milestones along the way, do you remember some of those moments?
I don't really remember anything in particular.
Yeah.
But with preemies, you know, because they're born early, there is not really fear, but there's always like the chance that they will be behind developmentally, you know, so that was something that was always on our mind.
Yeah.
You know, and just watching for different things that the doctor said, developmental wise.
Yeah.
You know, like mentally and physically. But you know, he caught up really quickly, and they usually do, you know, like the first couple years, and then you know, and we did pray that everything would be okay. Yeah. You know, and we were just really thankful that God answered those prayers.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. So as a new mom going through that, how do you feel like now you're able to support other new moms from what you went through?
Yeah, for sure. Since Bentley was born, you know, I've come across half a dozen moms who had preemies and were just totally at a loss what to do. And, you know, and it's one of those things that, you can, you know, that I'm really thankful that God gave me that opportunity to be empathetic.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember getting in contact with a friend of mine who had a preemie, and she's like, I don't know what to do. Like, you know, so brought her a meal and a lot of hand sanitizer, a lot of tiny diapers and onesies, you know, and just encouraging her that that God would take care of them, you know, and just being there for them, you know, and their baby isn't latching, you know, or their baby isn't quite meeting those milestones yet.
That normal babies would.
Yes.
For sure.
You know, and don't compare, like it's okay. You know, and
that's hard for new moms. I feel like that comparison game is
and then when they're not premature.
Yeah, when they're normal, quote unquote normal, then it's hard. But then when you have any sort of unusual birth situation or an early birth situation, it becomes even harder because technically Bentley would be, you know, 3 months old or 2 months old or whatever, but he really still wasn't gestational. So that makes a big difference.
And just encouraging them, just listening, really, you know, and
so if someone is either has a preemie baby or they know someone who does and they're going through that, what are some practical things they can do to encourage them, and how can they pray for them?
I think it's just, you know, a lot of things that would be just for normal mothers of babies. But I think the biggest thing is, you know, that just God would protect the babies from sicknesses. You know, that's a big one because premature babies are a lot more immunocompromised. You know, than the average full-term baby. So, you know, just praying that God would keep the babies healthy, you know, and I can't remember what the question was. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I think, too, one thing that's really important is for new moms and then for preemie moms, just really respecting their boundaries. And if they've got something that's maybe they're not comfortable with other people holding the baby, or they don't really want visitors, but you really want to go see the baby, then be okay with a FaceTime, or, you know, be supportive of whatever that boundary is that they've set for their family. To try to be respectful of that, even if you think it's overboard or the baby's 6 months old and you're like, get the baby out of the house. It's fine. If it's something that they're comfortable with, just being respectful of that boundary.
Yeah, that's a big one. We didn't, when we brought Bentley home from the hospital, I mean, we didn't go out with him for weeks, and we didn't bring him to church for months. You know, and there were people that were kind of hinting like, oh, you need to get back in church. You need to bring your baby to church. I'm like, well, not quite yet, you know, we don't want him to get sick.
Yeah.
You know, so
for sure.
Yeah, definitely respecting those boundaries and,
That's
not pushing them too hard.
Yeah, that's
it's
a good
scary.
one. Yeah, it is hard. It is hard. I think in the NICU too, you guys were on a different schedule because you had like the feeding schedule, and then you were there during visitor hours. I feel like that time of like communication back and forth, it was just different information. And so I think if you know someone going through that, also just being patient with them, they probably can't like text you back right away, or they don't know any updates right now, or they're waiting on the doctor to come around. And so their updates are just different than, coming through a normal birth situation. And I think that's just something to be patient with them. As caring as sometimes my extroverted self wants to be, it can be a little much sometimes when someone's going through something and they don't have information or they don't have updates from the doctor. So trying to just be patient with them too. Yeah.
Yeah. There are always doctors and nurses coming in and out.
Yeah.
You know, specialists coming in and out.
Yeah.
You know, like Carol said, you know, the baby's on a fairly strict, feeding schedule in the NICU. And then between that and the mom trying to rest and trying to pump or, do feedings and stuff like that. It's a pretty busy place.
Yeah, it is a pretty busy place. It's a busy time. Yeah. Well, Ashley, thank you for hopping on and sharing your story.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
A preemie story is just different than a regular story. And I feel like the fear that you go through, every mom and every parent has fear, but it's just different. And so, anyway, thank you for sharing your story. And I appreciate you guys hopping on. And we will see you next time. Thank you, guys.